And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. And today on the program, we have the face of St. Mary's University Athletics. And Donnie Netto, our sports information director, thank goodness it's neither of us.
That's right. Got that right.
No, we have Nikki Fennern. Nikki is our athletic director at St. Mary's, and we have lots to talk to Nikki about. We're going to get into sort of the state of Cardinals athletics as we're now almost through the winter sports season, Nikki. And a little bit later on in the program, we're going to be talking about a big NCAA Division III women's basketball tournament that St. Mary's will be hosting. But before we get into all of that, we have to talk about you a little bit. You were the recipient of a Breaking Barriers Award that was given to you by the Minnesota Coalition of Women in Athletic Leadership. So congratulations. We've talked about it a little bit on the program already. But give us your thoughts on receiving that Breaking Barriers Award, of course, for the work that you've done as athletic director at St. Mary's.
Well, the Breaking Barriers Award is really meant for people who really help, in this case, specifically girls and women, to progress in intercollegiate and other areas of athletics. And I was very honored to receive that award at the Minnesota National Girls and Women's in Sports Day celebration up at the Minnesota History Center. But so humbled because there were so many great recipients of that award and so many other inspiring women leaders on that day, that it was just great to be in their presence. And I think the thing that I've told most people about it is the most honoring thing, I think, is to be nominated by a former student athlete. So Sarah Eisenhower, who played hockey at St. Mary's University and is now the assistant commissioner of the Upper Midwest Athletic Conference, nominated me for the award. And it's just very nice when your former student athletes are willing to recognize you.
Well, and it's one of those things, too, when you set out to take a position like athletic director, you know, it's not something like, oh, I'm going to break a barrier here, right? You do it because you love athletics and you felt it was the right time in your life and you had the attributes that St. Mary's was looking for. But when you do reflect, you do sort of think about and notice those things, right?
You know, I think there's just small moments in everybody's life and everybody's career that really make a difference. And when you're in that small moment, you don't know that you might be breaking a barrier for somebody, or that you might be helping them or helping them make a life-changing decision. And I think it's those little things that you're right. You don't set out to do any of them. You don't set out to say, gosh, I'm going to go break a barrier today. You just help people along the way, and that's the great thing about St. Mary's University, is a great community. And we just want to help everybody, and we want to help everybody succeed.
Nikki, what as AD, you've been doing this for quite a while now. What's been the biggest challenge for you as the athletic director at St. Mary's?
Well, I think there's a lot of challenges that we have in being athletic director, and I think that the biggest challenge is probably balance. There are so many demands that are placed on student athletes, demands placed on their coaches, demands placed on our faculty, on me, on our support staff, and really being able to balance all of those different demands and do it at the highest level possible. I'm always on. I'm never not the athletic director at St. Mary's University. You don't ever leave that job. And but that's also part of what I love about it. And so we work with our student athletes. We want them to have good balance in their lives. We want them to be successful in all aspects, academically, athletically, socially, and after they graduate. And we want that for our coaches and our staff as well.
You know, another thing I was going to add too is as you're going about all of those duties, I think a lot of people in their day-to-day life, they don't see themselves as a role model, right? But you obviously were a role model for Sarah, and I'm sure others as well. So maybe talk about that and maybe some of the role models in your life.
Sure. You know, you never know who's watching you. And it's a really important thing to always understand. And the decisions you make, the integrity that you maintain, and how you go about the things that you are doing, there's always somebody who's taking note of what's happening. So no, you don't set out to be a role model. You don't set out to do some of these things. But we always say we work in intercollegiate athletics. And just inherently, there's more press around us. There's more attention around intercollegiate athletics. It's not right or wrong, it's just how it works. And so we know that those things are out there. So it's exciting to have that role. I had several role models growing up, and throughout, you know, start off with my my brother and my family, who really said, gosh, you're going to do well in sports, and they really encouraged that, and they really helped me out. And my brother was probably the hardest coach that I've ever had, and so he really helped me out. And then all the way through high school coaches, and really one of my biggest mentors is my college softball coach, Dr. Faye Perkins. She is still a mentor to me. She's still my phone call where I say, Faye, what do you think we should do in this situation? And you need those people in your lives, and she really broke barriers for me. And there's a lot of people who have gone before me to give me opportunities, and I'm just very, very thankful.
Right. Your decision to get a doctorate yourself, did that weigh in based off of your role model, or were there other factors there too?
Sure. So when I set out, I knew my sophomore year of college that I wanted to be an athletic director, and then at that point, it's like, okay, a terminal degree is in there somewhere. I just don't know where. And certainly, Dr. Perkins, Coach Perkins, was a big part of that, and encouraging me and saying this is something that you really should do. I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful for the people along the way at St. Mary's who were patient with me when I was going through that process, and the people who helped me to do that. Certainly my family has gone through so many things for me to be able to do the things that I do. They make sacrifices as well, and that's oftentimes a forgotten piece.
Sure.
You know, and that was going to lead to my next question. You talk about balance. We talk to our student athletes about how do you do it? You've got 3 young kids, and they're getting involved in athletics now themselves. How do you make sure that they're a part of your life as much as this job? Because as you and I both know and have talked many times, sometimes this is our life, and you really need to make sure that you have that balance.
Right. It helps when you love what you do. And so because I love what I do, because I love coming to St. Mary's, because I love being with our student athletes, it doesn't always feel like work. And so that's a great thing. And then St. Mary's has created just a really, really good family environment, not only for me, but for many. It's pretty much known from when my kids were in their car seats to now I have a driver who they're going to be at games with me. And they're going to be there, and I had about 100 babysitters sitting in the stands. You know, if my husband wasn't able to be there, or if I were bringing them on my own, and it was just a great environment to raise kids. And so when you can put those things together, it's not a work life and then a family life. It is both together, and I am very, very lucky to be in that situation. And then Donnie, I have to thank you, because there's times where you just kick me out of the office and say, go be with your family, and tell me that and remind me that that's the most important thing. Not that I need, not that I forget that, but you know, there's people like you who say, Nikki, go do the things you need to do.
You know, I thought for sure when he asked you your greatest challenge, his name might come up then, but it at least got in there, right?
Yeah, I was trying to be professional in that situation.
You know, you talk about that. St. Mary's allows that. You with your kids, and really in our department, you allow it as well. I mean, there's many times that Coach Winicky will bring his daughter in, or you know, Coach Barrett will bring his kids in, and I think it is important that it's neat for me. I know, because of having been here so long. You know, we have Abby Winter here playing for us. Well, I remember when Abby Winter was, you know, yay big, and I think it's kind of neat as the SID to see these kids grow. I've seen your children from when they were born to where they're at now, and I think that's kind of neat that they feel comfortable being able to bring them to work if they need to.
Right, and that started with Chris Kendall, who has now retired from St. Mary's, and was an athletic director when I was coaching. And I know one time I brought my very, very young daughter in. She was crawling around, and I didn't see her, and I didn't see Chris, and I was wondering where they were. And here was Chris on the floor playing peekaboo with my daughter, and he set a really good role model, and he set a really good example of that made it very easy for us to be able to continue. So again, another role model, another person who helped to break barriers and get a lot of people where they are now.
And one more comment on the breaking barriers. On Thursday, March 8th, St. Mary's and the Leadership Club and Dr. Lori Sharon has helped set up sort of to continue to honor your award by bringing in another woman to St. Mary's who broke barriers, Isla Borders, who was the first woman to get a scholarship to play baseball, and then she was the first professional woman baseball player who played in men's baseball, right? This was back in sort of the late 1990s. She played for the St. Paul Saints. So she's going to come and speak at St. Mary's. It'll be open to the public. So just further recognition of the Breaking Barriers Award by bringing in a woman who's been well recognized as doing that.
I'm really excited for the event. I'm very thankful for the leadership group and Dr. Sharon for her leadership in making this happen. And Dr. John Pyle is certainly a part of it as well. So I'm very thankful that they are doing that. I'll get an opportunity to speak for just a little bit on some of those key moments in life that I think really changed the course of my life and how we want to change the course of other people's lives through those key moments. But I'm most excited to have Isla there. I'm very, very excited to have her there. Just what a great role model, great barrier breaker, and it'll be a good event. And it's open to the public in the Page Theater.
Yeah, Thursday, March 8th, 7 p.m. at the Page Theater on the campus of St. Mary's, so you're certainly invited to attend. It's free, so
yes.
It should be a great presentation. And I know in talking to Dr. Sharon, Isla Borders said that she has great affinity for Winona and St. Mary's, that when she played for the Saints, she did spend a little time in Winona. She was very familiar, and she just told her management team, let's make it happen.
Right.
And so they made it happen, so that'll be great. That's open to the public. Nikki, real quick, let's talk about the women's basketball team at St. Mary's, right? Because they're one of the teams in the MIAC postseason playoffs, and their first game was Tuesday night, a big win over Bethel. It was a 4-point victory over the Royals, and that was a team that they had lost to twice during the regular season, so a good win there. Now they've got St. Thomas on Thursday night.
Right, watching the game on Tuesday, in my head, I was thinking it's really hard to beat a team 3 times, but because I'm superstitious, I didn't want to verbalize it. So, but it was definitely going through my head, and the team just played amazing. As always, Coach Paulerai has them so prepared, and he has an amazing game plan he had an amazing game plan for Bethel. Credit to our team to really execute it. Brandy Blattner comes up with another monster game with 27 points and 11 boards, and Lex Huseman, the senior, is continuing to be a great leader. So we're really excited about what they've done, and I look forward to seeing how we do against the Townies.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's interesting that you know, as you mentioned, because I thought the same thing. You hear it all the time. It's tough to beat a team 3 times, but you know, I think the preparation that Coach Paulerai had for them, and I mean, you have to give credit to Brandy. I mean, Brandy is right now, she's probably playing as well as she has played in her 3 years here. I mean, she's dominating at both ends. Like you said, 27 points, which was phenomenal, 11 rebounds. And I think that the team really is kind of finally melding. You know, we've got a lot of young players on this team, and I think that you know, it's important that it's a learning process for a lot of them. Rachel Kettle, Abby Winter, you know, these people that haven't been in this situation are really stepping up and doing a good job. And Lex, as really the silent leader. I mean, I know she doesn't like to be in the spotlight, but she's done a great job as our lone senior, and we talked about it last week. It's not an easy thing to do, being that only senior, and I think she's done a really good job.
Yeah, Lex is doing an amazing job. I'm just, again, so excited for that team. And yeah, we've got a lot of young players, but they are stepping up. And we have to remember that somebody like Abby, this stage is not too big for her, having played in 2 state championship games. She knows what it's like to play in this type of pressure, and I actually got a chance to talk to her today. She's so excited for this next game. And so I think that how they've prepared themselves, they are going to handle that pressure extremely well.
And I think, too, for Shaylee Vessel, a transfer student, to just come in and be in the starting lineup, and her rapport with Kirsten Keefe and the rest of the team is phenomenal. And I think, of course, Coach Paulerai gets a lot of credit there, too. Yeah,
he's one of the best in the business. And what he's done, team dynamics, it's hard to bring somebody in at semester because that team dynamic is tough. So a lot of credit to our current student athletes and to Shaylee for how she handled herself in getting involved with the program. And Coach P is he's an amazing coach. I think he's one of the best in our league. And again, I know that he'll always have us prepared. He's as smart as a tack, and he's gonna do a great job.
All right, when we come back here on the Cardinals Nest, we're going to talk about the NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Tournament, regardless of who is in it. St. Mary's is hosting it, so we'll talk about that next here on HBC.
At Midtown Foods, we know it's not just about getting groceries. It's about friendly faces, fresh produce, quality cuts of meat, and experienced employees. We know because we shop here too. Midtown Foods, Winona's largest locally owned grocery store, downtown Winona.
Don't miss out on highlights and score updates from your favorite local college and high school athletics by following HBC TV 25 Sports. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get up-to-date information on all the games covered by the HBC sports team. Grab your smartphone and add us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at HBC TV 25 Sports.
And we're back here continuing our discussion with Nikki Fennern, the athletic director at St. Mary's University. And Nikki, we just talked about women's basketball and the MIAC playoffs. Well, the NCAA Division III tournament is going to be hosted by St. Mary's. And so I know you're busy organizing all of that right now. While it's going to be hosted by us at St. Mary's, it will be held in Rochester just due to the facilities and all of the opportunities there. So maybe tell us about how it came to be at St. Mary's. I know at one time we did host the volleyball tournament as well years ago.
Sure. We have a really good relationship with Rochester Sports, and we're very excited to co-host with them. And they are doing an amazing job getting all the details and the pieces worked out beforehand. We have a lot of our staff who will be over there helping out, and a lot of people from the conference who are going to be over helping us out for this event. The arena over at the Civic Center is a great venue to play in, and I'm really excited to serve as co-host because, again, Rochester is doing an amazing job. They're great partners in this, and we're excited to really be a part of it.
You've been involved in some of these things, being regional chairs and national chairs. For me, this is the first experience, but what I'm amazed at is all of the preparation that you have to go through. I mean, we've had basically, conference calls weekly, and it's like I'm amazed at all of the things that that you don't think about having to do that go with this type of an event.
We want to think about this being 5 years in the making because the bid went in about 5 years ago, and then in the last year, it's been it's somewhat consuming. There are a lot of details, and so we are now on conference calls every other week. Pretty soon it'll be every week, and we're down to those final details and the little things that are going to make a really, really big difference. And we just want it to be a great experience for the student athletes. You're going to have the 4 best Division III teams in the country over in Rochester playing just amazing basketball. And I hope we get a good fan base to watch some really, really good basketball during that time. And
so this is like a Thursday through Saturday event, right? Or Sunday?
Friday and Saturday.
Friday, Saturday.
Yep, so March 16th and 17th. Games on the 16th will be at 5:30 and 7:30. Games on the 17th will be at 7:30, just the final game. So it is going to be a really good event. It's an exciting time for basketball in the state of Minnesota, thinking about sectional and regional championships, also with the Division III National Championship happening at the same time. Rochester's going to be rocking. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, March is always a busy time in Rochester with all the high school tournaments played there and now this as well. So.
Right.
And like Nikki said, the neat thing is this isn't a regional tournament. This is basically the NCAA Women's Basketball Final Four for Division III, and it'll be the 4 best teams in the country will be in Rochester playing. It's going to be some great basketball.
Great.
No question.
The student athletes, when they come, are going to get a great experience. Donnie, you talked a little bit about the preparation. So it's not just the games on Friday and Saturday. They'll come in on Wednesday, and we'll have a media day for them, and then they'll have their walkthroughs, and then they'll have their practices on Thursday and more media situations, and they'll get out and they'll do some community service. So they'll be out in the community. I believe they're working with the Ronald McDonald House there in Rochester. So they'll be out doing that because it is very important for our student athletes to get back. Having chaired the National Softball Committee, what we know from our student athletes is all of those pieces that go around the game are so important to them as well. To really give them that national championship experience. And we're very excited about it.
All right. So we want to close out now the Cardinals' Nest by talking about all of the other winter sports at St. Mary's, right? And so a lot of things going on. Donnie, where do we start?
Well, I would absolutely. I mean, the way things went last week last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we have to start with swimming and diving. And Griffin Radis at the MIAC Championships, I'm not sure where that came from, but 6 school records, what a phenomenal performance from a freshman. Nikki, you were up there as we did co-host that as well.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about the weekend because, from a standpoint of the SID, Griffin Radis is the story because he just had a phenomenal 3 days.
Yeah, you're right. And as you mentioned, we served as a co-host for the MIAC Swimming and Diving Championships, which is absolutely an amazing event. It's held at the University of Minnesota Gene Freeman Aquatic Center, and we're very excited to be there. They are gracious hosts to us as well. But yeah, for us, the story really was Griffin. He 6 school records, and he broke the record probably most impressively in the 200 breaststroke. Because when I was talking to Coach Lowe about that situation, she said, yeah, he's never really swam it rested. I said, he's doing that well and he hasn't swam it rested yet? No, not yet. And so he promptly goes out and breaks the record in the final, winning the consolation final. I think he was 4th in the 400 IM and finished 12th in the 200 IM. MIAC swimming is insanely competitive. And so for us to have him as a freshman do what he did, we are so excited about the future and really about the excitement about what Coach Lowe is doing with this program. You watch them in the next couple of years, it's going to be fun.
Right, I was just going to say, I think we're starting to see the fruits of Amber Lowe's efforts in both recruiting and the time that they put into practice and what they do in practice, because when we've had her on the program before, that's what she talks about, is really elevating the expectations for the swimmers and divers.
Sure, and she's in the middle of a culture change with that program, and year 3 is exactly on pace for what we thought it was going to be. We knew that results would be kind of similar to where we were last year, but we also know that the feel of the program, you can feel the trajectory moving upward, and that's really, really exciting. And again, she works so hard, and our swimmers are not one who always get a ton of recognition because they train through meets, and it's triangular meets, and sometimes they're scored and sometimes they're not. But to see so many personal bests at the MIAC meet, to see Griffin do what he did, just really pays off for all of them.
And we'll see more of that this weekend. We've got the MIAC indoor track and field, and I guess I'm kind of expecting a similar type of a weekend for us in that we've got our individuals, and it starts with Becca Dupe in the long and triple jump, Desmond Stewart in the long and triple jump. But there's going to be so many St. Mary's athletes. I think there's 26 or 27 in all that will be competing, which is a huge number for us. Again, another big weekend for us in a team sport that really is their weekend to shine.
Well, just another credit to Coach Anderson and what he's doing in this. He's just probably a couple years beyond where swimming and diving is, and he's done a great job with recruiting. He's brought in both numbers and great quality, and every year we're taking more and more people to the indoor and outdoor conference meet. You have to qualify for that meet, so not everybody gets to go, and we're more and more people getting there, and so we're really excited about, again, the trajectory of our track and field programs. Talked with Coach Anderson and a couple of athletes last night as I was leaving the facility, and he said, Des gets to lead us off. Desmond Stewart gets to lead us off because men's triple jump is one of the first events, and that's a great person to have leading off your meet. He's an explosive athlete. He's fun to watch. So we're really excited about that. But there's a lot of people, you take the risk when you start mentioning people that you're going to leave somebody out. But we know what Becca can do. I think right now she's got the 4th or 5th best triple jump in the country. So she's going to get into the national meet on the triple jump, and so Des is working through that. We've got David Kemper, Maria Massarelli, both of them in the pole vault. Kyle Lichtenegger, fastest man at St. Mary's, and he's going to do really, really well in several events, and then several other people as well that I know are going to really have some outstanding performances.
We talked about the season, basically the season-ending meets for swimming and diving and track and field, as well as we've talked about women's basketball. We were this close to being talking about 2 hockey teams in the playoffs as well. Both of them going into the very last game of the season needing a win. Both of them came up on the short end, the men losing in overtime. 2nd year in a row now that their season has been ended in overtime. So a tough way to lose. But to be in that position says a lot about where those programs are at as well. Yeah, they really are. And so we think about the men's hockey team and Coach Billmore and where they did, again, this close, an overtime loss that eliminates us from the playoffs.
really doing that with the injury bug, really taking its toll on our men's hockey team this year. And for them to be able to do what they did, having those injuries, I'm very, very impressed. I wish we could have done it for our 13 seniors, I believe. And so they're going to be a huge loss for us. But I'm really proud of how they handled themselves and how they did. On the women's side, when you've got a first-year head coach who can come in and, again, be this close to getting you into the playoffs in one of the most competitive leagues in the country, you have to tip your hat. And so Greg Moore did an outstanding job with this team in his first year. We know what he's going to be able to build through his recruiting efforts and what he's doing with those women on the ice.
Yeah, the problem with those two is there's no bragging rights. They both finished in the same spot,
I know.
1 game out. They both had 9 wins on the season.
It'll keep the household calm.
It'll keep the household calm, that's right.
They're either really happy at the dinner table or they're going to be really disappointed. I don't know which one it'll be.
That's right.
Nikki, with men's basketball, I had a chance to talk to Christian Oliveris the other day, and I said, I know the season didn't go the way you wanted it to, and he said, you know what, we're really excited for next year.
Right.
He says that's where our focus is, and they're really, enthused with all the youth they have coming back on that team that they can start making some headway.
It's just some really, really good good things that we can see with men's basketball. What Jacob Bailey and Sawyer Rosner were able to do this year as freshmen in the league. We were so incredibly young. And again, 2 guys that we should have had all year that had season-ending injuries before the season even started. Right. And then another one who goes down partway into the season. And so that really takes its toll, especially in a sport like basketball where you're only playing 5 to 8 to 10 people in a game. Right. And so it took a toll. Proud of our guys for sticking in there.
Yep. And then just a couple minutes left here, talk about the spring sports, Nikki. Baseball, softball teams, they're off to warmer climates as St. Mary's gets into its spring break now. They're both going to Florida this year.
Yeah, if the ice doesn't go away, I think I might sneak into a suitcase. Because,
be a good idea, yeah.
Because I'd love to be in the Florida weather, and baseball and softball is a great time of the year, and once you come back from spring break, and the sound of the crack of the bat in the field house is a great sound in my book, and we're really excited to see how they do on their spring breaks. It's going to be a fun year for both of them. Of
course, you're the former softball coach, right? So you're used to that, the sound of that bat, and the glove. I love the glove sound too. That's
right. That's right. And so we're ready to start with my daughter and her pitching, and the other one with their hitting. So we're ready for softball season as well, and it's just a fun time. You get a nice spring day with both baseball and softball going, and maybe an outdoor track and field meet, and there's nothing better.
Yeah, it's we haven't talked about tennis at all, and tennis is really they're off to solid starts, and they're both going to Orlando, Florida, so they'll be in Florida next week as well, and then track and field is going to take their first training trip. They're going to be going to California to compete in a meet there, so some really exciting things for. I know Coach Anderson's really got some. He's got those programs moving in the right direction, and I know he's extremely excited for the indoor season, and it just keeps rolling for them because immediately they go into the outdoor season as well. So
yeah, our tennis teams are performing well at this point, and they're playing. The scores might not reflect it, but they're competing really well against some of the top teams in our conference. Teams who perennially are doing great on the national level, and so we're excited about the things that they're doing.
Yeah, I think that Coach Hallberg maybe wants to reconsider how he schedules matches because he always starts with Carleton and Gustavus and Bethel, usually perennially the top of the conference. So it's tough for them against Gustavus is so good, so deep, but they're doing well.
All right, we gotta end the show, but Nikki, thanks for being on the program. A lot going on, so we thought this was a good time to have you on the program. So, all right, that's going to do it for this week's Cardinals Nest. Thanks for watching here on HBC.